Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Good Servant Show. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Let me know in the box. We're gonna have a great show tonight. I don't know, man. I'm starting to like the music, man. It's starting to grow on me. I don't know if this is the Good Servant theme music yet, but it is nice. One thing I do think is going to be great today is that we're going to have our boy Luke on the show, man. And that is going to be nice, man. I always enjoy those shows. They go by fast. So strap in. Wrap in. Put on your seatbelt. You don't want to crash. It's going to be another quick one. Praise Jesus Christ for everything that He's done for us, right? Because this weird world is going to be long behind us at some point, and we are going to be glorified. We are going to be never hurt again. No more tears. No more pain. Not just for you and me, but for everybody. And I like that. Alright, now that there's a few of us in here, I'm going to bring my boy on. Let me turn off this background music. Alright, I'm starting to get a little carried away with this background music, but it's good, you know. It's good to do something, I don't know. Something new, something different. Hey Sheila, hey Deb. Let me bring my boy Luke on. Hold on a second. Hello, Luke. Welcome to the show.
Hey, hello.
It's great, man. I'm happy, man. Like, okay, so today we had I was gonna Thomas Stephanie this morning, but Tom had to go do something with a customer or something like that, and Stephanie was on fire today, man. And afterwards, man, I slept pretty good off and on all throughout the day, pretty much, you know. And I was like,
That's
man, I
awesome,
need
man.
it.
To get
Yeah,
that rest.
I needed it, man. I really did. And Deb just typed something in there that she rested too, got some sleep. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw well, I heard a little bit of the show this morning, and yeah, it was pretty good. It actually kind of made me think about how, like, some people, they question if there's a fair chance to get to know God. And I was like thinking about it, and I think it even says, like, you always get a fair chance, because there's one, I forgot where it's at. I think it's maybe in Romans, how they had the understanding that God was there, but they chose to actually live by the worldly lie instead. And so, like, that right there tells you it's not like they were just lost and they didn't know God at all. It's the fact that God revealed Himself, but yet they still chose to live that lie. And I even think it shouldn't come down to it, but I even think, like, even if it comes down to being your deathbed and you have like a vision of Jesus right before you die, you would still be saved.
Me too. I think so too. Because it does say in Ephesians, right, that every man will be without an excuse, right? Meaning that, to me, that means that everyone gets a chance to say yes or no. And it wouldn't be free will, right? If we didn't get to choose to go or not to go, right? Like, a lot of people make it like so difficult, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, you got to do this, but then you got to add this and add that, and then maybe, you know, maybe we'll go to heaven if we do this and this, right? But that's not the way the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that the price is paid, you know, and that it's free will. You can choose to go if you want, you know.
Yeah, I believe that too. Like, yeah, I think it is predestination in a way where God knows the decisions we're gonna make and obviously knows the end of the story. I mean, that's the whole reason the gospel is the good news. But at the same time, from what like we can perceive, it is our free will. We're making that choice, you know, nobody's like forcing you to go one way or the other.
You know what? Tom explained it to me one time. Like he said, how did he put it? He goes like, if okay, he goes, just because God knows what card you're gonna pick, right? Almost like a magician, right? Doesn't mean that he's picking your card. You know what I mean? Like you still pick the card, but he knows what you're gonna pick. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a good way of saying that, you know?
Yeah, that's
Like,
a really good way
so
to explain that.
man, I'm just excited that it is this way, man. Because, like, honestly, like, there was, and I don't know if you're the same way, man, but like, growing up learning about dinosaurs and learning about, like, the planets and everything, right? I, I always thought, like, well, yeah, how is God possible? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how would it even be possible if all this other stuff is true and backed by scientific facts? Like, like, how could it be the way they say it in the Bible and how it is that they've discovered? You know what I mean? Have you ever been at that point?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why, you know, it took me a while to even start having faith and belief in God because even first getting into the Bible and stuff, it's like you're working it around your worldly views. You're already with the pre-assumption that planets exist, that you're in a spinning ball. And honestly, without like God giving me that understanding, I don't know if like just through my knowledge alone, reading the Bible, I would have figured that out. You know what I mean? Of course, like figured it out through like YouTube videos and stuff too, but they kind of both like confirmed each other.
So, like, when did you start, like when did you actually come into fire? I know you probably answered this before when I asked you, but when did you like come into flat earth? Like, what year?
2015 got into like a lot of Eric Debay videos and and
Oh,
I was mentioning too how like flat earth it was actually in a lot of recommended videos back then. Like it wasn't really that hard to find once you like took the time to actually look into it or had enough people like telling you about it and you actually like looked up flat earth. I mean, there was a lot of good sources. Now it's just it seems like it's impossible to find accurate information on it now.
right. It does. It does. It seems like because I remember when I started in flat Earth like 2017 only because I was looking up the moon missions, right? And all this flat Earth stuff started popping up in my feed, and I don't even like, you know what I mean? Like I never even wanted to even know about flat Earth. I was like, oh, that's stupid, man. Like, what? How could that even be true? Like, I just want to see if they went to the moon or not, you know? And then it wasn't until I started watching it that it started to become like, oh, maybe that is possible, right? And then I would hunt and peck, a little flat Earth stuff here, a little flat Earth stuff here, and put it all together. I mean, I mean, that's all I did for like weeks, man, is just watch flat Earth stuff. I couldn't get enough of it. And
Oh
but
yeah, first getting into it didn't matter what channel, as long as it was a flat Earth channel. Like I was just binge watching them.
Yeah, me too, man. I was like, I subbed to everybody. Everybody, even a little bit flatter. You know what I mean? Like, I was, oh, yeah, they're flattered, man. I'm going to sub. But that's cool. You got in right at the beginning. You must have been a young dude, man. Like, just a baby, man, when you got into this stuff, man. Because you got in before me, like, with the original crew.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I had a couple buddies in high school who were telling me to look into it, and we were always kind of like into different conspiracies and all that. And I actually like read some of the Book of Enoch, and I already had that like preconceived knowledge that I think they're gonna do something that fake a UFO and it's gonna be fallen angels instead. And I still believe the Earth was spinning at that time. So I think like those little information starts to actually like make sense, finding out like the flat earth, all these other things that like I looked into, they actually make more sense now. But that's pretty much how, I kind of got into it, was that, I had a couple people telling me, I'm like, okay, why are people thinking this?
So do you have one of those brains, right, where you read something from one source about something else, and then you'll learn something else down the road, and it'll connect to that last subject, like, oh wait, that connects to that, like,
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was trying to say, and you explained it much better.
well, that's how my brain works too, right? So I call it connecting dots, like where I'll have like different things that I've learned throughout like the course of my life, right? And if I learn something new and it like matches one of those things, it'll go back and connect it to that thing. You know? It's crazy how it works, man. You know?
Oh yeah, it's wild. I mean, even just like other topics, that event with 9/11, and all these other conspiracies start to like add up when you like look into like new rabbit holes. Like you said, it starts to connect the dots of other things that you looked into in the past.
Now, I'll tell you what. Now, the first thing that wake me up was the 9/11 thing, right? And and this was like, I would say like 2007, 2008, like real early in all this, right? Because YouTube used to be like cat videos and like, people with their, videos of their kids, it was just kind of a garbage source for whatever information, right? But around 2007, it got good to the point where in a very quick amount of time, you could type in anything and you would get any subject you want, like how to fix any kind of engine, how to fix it, how to like rewire your house, like how to build birdhouses. Anything you wanted was on YouTube. I don't know how it happened, but everyone started like uploading stuff, right? To the point where there was a bunch of stuff. And so I saw this video and I was in the military during 9/11, and a couple things didn't make sense, but I believed the narrative, right? I totally did, right? But when I saw this video, I forget what it was called. I want to say it was like Loose Change or something like that, or I don't know. Maybe it was even a little later than that, but it was way back. And as soon as I saw one video about it, I believed it. I believed what they were saying. I was like, yeah, man, this is bull crap. You know what I mean? Like I did never one video and I believed them, And then I like took a break from conspiracies, right? Because it was too much, right? Until Flat Earth, right? Which was like 8 years later, right? Or whatever, or however many years later it was. Like I should have just kept going from that point, man. I would have been in way early, But it was 9/11 that woke me up, man.
Yeah, it's wild how like some people kind of take a break with conspiracies, then get back in it, because even growing up, it really started from my high school buddy and his dad. His dad would be listening to Alex Jones all the time, and like it almost like seemed like he backtracked, because he would talk about the two dictatorship political parties that the whole thing is just rigged and all that. And as soon as Trump came in the picture, he's watching Fox News all the time, and he listens to Alex Jones almost every day. So it's like it's just crazy how I think that's kind of part of it. They get you like to be more above the world. You get that fire for truth, and then you get caught up in something else, and then you kind of lose that desire to keep looking into these other topics.
Yeah, they almost want you to like find out the truth and then like assume that there's like some kind of like good and bad side to the earth, right? Where like, oh, I'm going to join the good part of the world and win it back, and I'm going to be part of this big old parade or this big old movement to like win the world back for the people, and I almost get caught up in that because I want to have it back. You know what I mean? But I know by reading the scriptures, right, that it's like this for a reason, man, and it was always going to be like this. And when I start to think about like what it would take, right, to win the world back, it's like, man, they should have thought about this back in the 1500s, man. You know, if they were ever going to try to win the world back, because they really made it, impossible for us at this point. You know, not to
Yeah,
sound.
that's very true. I mean, even if it, like you were saying, even if everything started to come back, maybe there was some group that like was honest, overthrew the government and started things over. Like, how fast would it be till things become a mess again? I mean, we live in this world of sin to where it's like it's hard to even walk out the door without doing some kind of sin. So you can't escape that. It's like even if you completely changed everything, it's just gonna go back to the wicked ways.
Exactly, man. I mean, it's like it's crazy, right? It's in everything, right? Everything we do, they find a way to trick us into like consenting, consenting to it, right? Where it's like, okay, well, you ate the food, but we wrote the ingredients on the back, or we gave you the app to use, but you agreed to the terms and conditions, or we gave you this, but we told you about it in this way, and I hate all the tricks, dude. You know what I mean? You almost have to be a genius just to like avoid stepping in all the traps that are set for us, these legal traps and legalese and who has authority over you and consent and all this crap, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, even the Pharisees tried to set Jesus up and have him say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. It's just it's almost like everywhere you go, there's some kind of trap, and that's also why I think it's important to be strong in faith and not to get caught up in thinking you have to earn points and do works to get to heaven, because that's the whole reason. God sent his son, pretty much like condemn the flesh and fulfill the law, and then have us live by spirit and faith because we're justified through that because of the grace of God.
Yeah, because I mean, at some point, I mean, it gets impossible, right? I mean, it gets absolutely impossible to avoid everything. And I
Yeah,
almost
exactly.
think about.
Oh, my bad.
Go
You
ahead.
could go.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, even like Jesus was saying how even if you look at a woman in a lustful way, you've already committed adultery. So I'm not saying like every single man has done that, probably, at one point, but it just shows like how easy it is to sin in this world. I mean, this world is, full of sin.
Right. No, you're right. I almost think like, because like how like you find out like different things along the way, right? Especially with like finding out like like this thing with the law and like admiralty law and the law of the land and like all these different things that they teach us, right? Like now it's like it's almost unbelievable, but it's true. You know what I mean? Like it is true. This all this crap, and it almost makes you think like, is this what Jesus was talking about? How like when you want to be justified by the law, you just keep creating all these laws, right? It's like a sickness, right? You create all these laws to help you become justified, but then Jesus was like, look, I came here to like just fulfill that, complete that, and and um and then you can carry on from there, right? Now when you add these things that we were learning now, right, are conspiracies about the law, right? You're like, wow, like I wonder if Jesus meant that too. Like now that I know about it, was that on his mind too? Because there's nothing new under the sun. Were they trying to play little games like that with the law back then, or even before Jesus, right? Even during Moses's time, right? Like all these Mosaic laws, right? Like don't eat this, in the afternoon on Sunday, like crazy stuff. You know what I mean? Like I don't know,
Yeah.
right?
It's almost like they try to put themselves on that same level as God. I mean, even like in Matthew where Jesus says like, and unless your righteousness exceeds of the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And it's like I think they use all these laws to confuse us, and then they use certain verses in the Bible probably to justify their doings, almost like when the devil used like the Bible to try to trick Jesus, and Jesus says you don't test God. I think it's almost kind of like the same thing what these Pharisees do. And that's why Jesus came. It's like he even says, he told the sick, like, it's your faith that made you well. He didn't say, oh, go do some works and come back and then we'll talk about it. And it's not like, that justifies you doing the sin and that you like the sin. It's like, it's the fact that we are in flesh, but the law is spiritual. Like, we hate that we do what we do. We don't even understand our own actions, is what Paul was saying. But through faith, we're justified. So it's not like we're sticking a middle finger up and saying, I do what I want. I mean, that's not really showing faith in God if, like, you're just happy, like, sinning all the time. What kind of faith is that? So it's not like an excuse to sin. It's just that's the way it is. We are dead in flesh, but alive in the spirit through Christ.
That's right. I like how that is, because I mean, even Paul said, do we still sin just so grace will abound? And we're not supposed to do that, but it would abound. Grace would abound if we did keep sinning, right? Like even though that it's kind of like, even though it would work that way, that's not how we are towards God, right? Like we want to still try to do our best not to sin, to please God, because we love God, and but we would be forgiven continually, right? Because God's forgiveness knows no bounds, right? And just his love covers like a multitude of sin, right? And it is kind of a tough spot to be in, right? Because to explain that to somebody, they think you're saying you could just do what you want, and it's all good, right? But what we're saying is, like, no, I mean, if you did what you want, which is the minimum, right? Like, it would be all good, but still, like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, how do we explain that to other people without sounding completely crazy,
Yeah, it is tough to explain it, and what I can say is that's kind of why you got to know them by their fruits too. It's like how they're going about everything, It's like God knows the hearts of man, Are you like boasting about how you could do what you want because, like, you're free the sin? It's like, no, that's not how it works at all,
Yeah. Just beautiful. I think that once it's inside of you, you know what they mean, but it's hard to explain. It's just so, I mean, the Bible is just so brilliantly, I mean, I don't know how anybody could think a man wrote that. like there's just no way, man, that you could come up with things that come true every day, things that have come true in history, things that will come true in the future, and that it's written all 1,500 years apart and it all fits together.
Yeah. Even if, like, man wrote it, the fact that it still went generations and generations, it's like you don't think that was influenced by God at all. You know what I mean? That would be a miracle in itself.
Right. It's almost more of a miracle that it was written through people, just because of how, I mean, just because of how it's so difficult for even the greatest plan on earth to come through and look, realistic, right? Like, I mean, obviously we can auto hoax stuff knowing, like, oh yeah, there's no way that that's real, like even their best plan looks fake as hell to us, right? And like, so like even if like man's most perfect plan to put this Bible together over all those years and to have it fit together and to have all these little magic little tricks and codes to work out to, like, I mean, it's just it's just so amazing how it proves itself, I've never seen anything like it. And I think that the only way you could deny it is to not read it, I mean, that's the only way I can think of.
Yeah, I don't think, like, someone who actually takes the time to read the Bible, I just don't see how they can't, figure out the truth. You know what I mean? But I think most people, I mean, there might be some who've read it and maybe just didn't get that Holy Spirit. I don't know. But most of the people who are, talking about how the Bible is false doctrine, this or that, it's like, how many of those people actually read it? You know what I mean? And not just heard what other people had to say about it. It's just the same thing how you were saying earlier with the news. They tell you some information and then it's like, you copy that information, then perceive it as your own thought. It's the same thing that they do with the Bible.
Yeah, that's what Stephanie brought up this morning, right? And it made me think of like, I remember I used to go to the VA hospital a lot just to go hang out there, just because it was just like a cool place to go there. And I used to like sit outside and talk to the new guys, and like try to offer some help or advice or whatever, or even receive some advice or whatever from the older guys or whatever. And I remember like, I would hear something on the news, right? And then I would go to the VA hospital and sit in the waiting room, and I would hear people talking about the news, right? Like basically repeating what they heard on the news, and act like that was their own original thought, like that was their take on it or something. I'm like, wow, just it's almost like I don't know. It just that sounded so crazy to me. Like, does this person have their own thought process, or is this the way life is, man? You just hear what you hear on the news, then you go repeat it.
Yeah, it's almost like, do people even have original thoughts in this world? It really makes me think, is it just like all the programming that we keep repeating through generations?
I think it's more rare than we think to have people with original thoughts. I think this is what I think. I think there's us, right, which is a kind of a small remnant that kind of broke out for some reason. Nothing special about us, but we're here, right? And there's us that kind of know the truth, right? And then there's people that know the truth that are on the evil side. And then there's like this big old group in the middle that just kind of repeat whatever they're told, right? And it's a matter of convincing that middle group as to where this world goes, like what direction it goes in. The middle group is important to control, and the evil people have it under control.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following what you're saying, and it's kind of wild how like, the evil too. They're almost like, I guess, like the few of us that that put our faith in the Jesus. It's like Jesus versus like the evil, because all these evil people are coming together to deceive you. Like your average good person doesn't have like an elite of like good guys. That are trying to like stop this whole mess. So that's I think that's how the deception gets big too, because these guys are working together. I mean, it's debatable that evil group that's in the truth, like they're all Satan. It could be Satan in different forms, or maybe like just followers of Satan. Like, who knows? But it is kind of ironic how all these evil forces come together to have the same agenda.
Yeah, it certainly is odd, man. It certainly is odd. It's almost like maybe this big group that's working all together, right? Maybe they're not all in on it, but like they know that if they go along with the tribe, right, that things will go better for them. And so even though they're not in on it, they just go along with the program, right? And they know that they'll get their thing out of it that they want. It almost feels like that, because I don't know if they could all be in on it, knowing everything, because I mean, there's a lot of people that do this one eye crap, man. like it goes down, right? Like to like the average common person, right? You're like, wow, man, is this person in on it? Like they know everything, or like that can't be real, right? Like then I'd have to think that this world is a huge narrative with just mostly characters in it. That's where the NPC thing comes through, right? I know this is interesting, right? But it scares me too, in a way, where like, okay, then this whole world is created. There's all these characters, there's a lot of NPCs, and there's really just so few of us that it's like, it's like way overwhelming just how few of us there are.
Yeah, it's very wild to think about, man, just because of all this going on. It's like you got to be able to question these things. It's like you find out like these events are fake, and like what they tell you through religion, the schools, the media is fake. All these characters push a certain agenda. So it's like, who is real, so it does get you the question to the point where, you have to ask your own mom, like, if there's any pictures of when you were born at the hospital.
Well, it's like this, right? Like these are things that get me thinking, right? Like, okay, we know the bang events, right? So the bang event in, say, Vegas is fake, right? And it's pretty clear that it is, right? But then you're like, okay, well, there's two hospitals in Vegas, right? In that area, and they have to know that nobody went there. Like, how would they be able to pull that off and have both hospitals there and have like all those medical people, right? That like, um, nobody showed up there, and they would have to know that, right? Are they in on it too, or is there some kind of glitch in the system? Because the event itself absolutely did not happen the way they said it did, because of just how many mistakes and errors there were in it, right? And you're like, man, what the hell is going on, man? How do they pull that off?
Yeah, for the hospitals not to even question that, it's just so hard to believe that they're that decompartmentalized to where, nobody's questioning this, or, are they just going along with the narrative? It is very interesting, to think about, but either way, it just shows what this world is. This world is sinful. This world is full of
Fake.
tricks and lies, and they even saying he's the prince of the air, so it makes sense with the media, TV, radio, and internet. All that, is basically, could be saying just deceiving you, which it definitely is. That's the programming's everywhere.
It's like the father of lies, right? Like there's just no truth at all in it,
Yeah, just coming up with more and more lies, just like how they show perfectly, circle Earth with the NASA photos, but then Neil deGrasse Tyson saying it's pear shaped. It's like they have to like just keep going with their lies and like keep fulfilling lies. So then someone like calls them out on it, then they have to think of another lie, and it's just like a never ending cycle of lies. It seems like
right?
that get you nowhere.
Right. I remember like when Joe Rogan like asked him, yeah, you said that it was pear shaped, like of course it was all set up softball question by Joe Rogan, right? And it was you said it was pear shaped. He's like, yeah, if you take a cue ball, it's perfectly smooth, and that's what I meant. Is that it's just minuscule what I was saying, the dimensions, it is pear shaped, but it would look like a perfect circle to you. That's crazy, man. Remember he was saying like if a giant had the earth in his hand, it would look like a perfect sphere. Even though he's saying when I say a little fatter at the equator, thousands of miles or really or nothing.
Yeah, I think I remember him saying some weird explanation like that. Makes no
Yeah.
sense at all, man. Like my
No
favorite one is
sense.
I know we went to the moon because we had enough gas to get there and back. We didn't go to the Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly
Like,
Wiggly. Yep. I'll never forget that he said Piggly Wiggly. And I
yeah, but
think
this
that
guy's supposed to be the one to lead us to all these scientific discoveries.
well, I think they make statements like that, like, okay, say you'll never forget Piggly Wiggly for the rest of your life, right? And every time you hear it, it'll bring you back to that Joe Rogan episode, right? Now, it's just like that with um like the Kennedy assassination with grassy knoll, like little terms like that, right? That'll bring you right back to oh yeah, grassy knoll, that's like that Kennedy thing, right? Like you automatically connect these little terms and words, to these certain events, and I think they do that on purpose to like get our brains to connect that way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've even heard someone talking about how like words are like spells, and it kind of makes sense in that way. I think they do give us like certain words or something to make our brain, yeah, connect to that time where they were saying something to us to keep us deceived. I think that's kind of the whole reason why like maybe those people too at that hospital during that event, they didn't question it because maybe they are under some certain spell.
Yeah.
I do
I
think,
believe it.
especially if you listen with the, John Todd. I know you were mentioning before. I do think all that like witchcraft and all that is very real, and what we listen to. Now, I don't like take it to heart too much because, like, in a way, like, because my one buddy really had a hard time with this, and it's kind of led me not to like look into the Bible too much. He got caught up in like the whole works thing and all that, but like he would like stop listening to all that, which was really good. But like he like broke down when he like started listening to that again, and like he was confused with what was going on with everything, and he stopped reading the Bible for a little while, and like he was basically just completely confused. So like that being said, it's like you gotta keep in mind that like sin is everywhere. You can't always avoid it, but that's why you gotta be strong with the faith, and then God's stronger than all that. It's like
Well,
we're
if you try to break it down and learn all this evil, right, without the Holy Spirit, you will go crazy. You could make yourself nuts, man. And that's why I try to tell people, man, like you have to I know this it's hard, right? But you have to have faith in God before you can prove it to yourself that it's real, right? There's a leap of faith there that in order to really go through these things safely, because like you said with your friend, man, going nuts like that, right? There's always the worry of sliding into the wrong hands, and if they make things make sense to him, you know, and he can snap out of that craziness in a more sinister way, right? Like with they run into one of these Karen B channels, or with witchcraft and all that, where yeah, that'll unravel his mind a little bit. We know people personally, right, that have been in this chat and hung out with us that are losing their mind right now, you know, with this witchcraft and craziness. I know I don't want to name any names, but there's somebody that we know that's losing their mind right now and mumbling and can't make no sense. Like, we need God, man. Like, to go down these rabbit holes without God would be frightening to me.
Oh yeah, and it would, and that's why I think people do stop at certain points of the truth, where like once they look in like the Second Amendment and all that, they stop right there, because I think part of it is they're scared. They're scared because they can lose their mind to hear about all these things, especially not having the Holy Spirit and the faith in God, because you don't have that. I mean, how are you gonna get past these things? I go crazy too, and it makes me think too, like, even if something stumbles you, so say you are reading the Bible, something stumbles you, don't you can't let something like you don't understand stumble you sometimes. And if you're in a bad state, it's okay to pray, because that's one of the things too. Sometimes, like, if I sin, or if like I'm just in a bad state of mind, I don't want to pray, almost like being Adam and like hiding from God, like hiding the nakedness and all that. It's like, God understands you. So even if you pray and you say things that might not make sense, God knows what you mean. Even Jesus said, don't be like the Pharisees who pray in front of everybody and use fancy words. And I think that's huge, because I think sometimes when we do get stumbled, you got to keep that in mind, that God's always there for you.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes me worry though. Like, it just makes me worry about people that are like on the edge, right, of being saved. And I think like, oh, this person is like just on the edge, and I think that they can make it. And I hope that one day they'll get there, but like they're still waiting for something, and you're like, oh, I don't know what they're waiting for, and you don't want them to lose their mind. You don't want them to fall into a depression or go down some of these rabbit holes where, because like when I first, so I was already a Christian when I ran into Flat Earth, but then when I found out about the Flat Earth, I was like, well, I want to really make sure that the God I'm worshiping is the real God, like whoever God is, I'm cool with that, and there's a lot of compelling things, right, that go against the Bible that if you don't read the Bible, you could fall for, and like, it's scary to me to send someone else down that rabbit hole. I'm glad I'm on the other side of it because I know what's real now, right? And it's not just, what I grew up with and that, that's what I pick or whatever, because I didn't grow up with having God in my life, right? And I found God later in my, early 20s, late 20s, and then, reproved it to myself after Flat Earth. But like, I worry about people that aren't saved that are going down these rabbit holes. Like, what is holding you back from wanting to just accept the reality of the way it is, right? Take a leap of faith, and trust me, once you do that, you will easily be able to prove to yourself that it's true. You won't have to believe me anymore.
Yeah, that's all it takes. I mean, even in Romans it was saying how Abraham, he was he was justified like by works, and yeah, he has something to boast about, but not before God. It's his faith that was like that, saved him because he was fully convinced of what God promised him.
Yeah, he believed God and it was imparted to him for righteousness.
And I think a lot of people do stare away because of what they say, even with the Pharisees. Like the Pharisees, they're kind of blasphemous according to the Gentiles because of them preaching that kind of thing, where you're not good enough, and you got to do this and that, and they preach works, and they don't have the heart, and they don't have the faith.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Thank you for that. Guess what time it is, buddy?
Time to hit the old dusty trail.
Time to hit that old dusty trail.
I feel like
Thank
we
you.
only talked for like 10, 15 minutes, man.
I know, man. These shows go fast, man. I like talking to you, man. It's like, man, time just flies, man. I could probably do this for hours, man.
Well, we'll
Thank you for
definitely
coming
have
on.
to make this happen sometime again in the future. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a regular thing, man. This is the Luke and Good Servant show right now. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I always appreciate it. It's always a pleasure, man. And so I just want to say that to you. I appreciate you coming on, man. You're part of this family. You're part of me, man. And so I'm grateful for you, man.
I appreciate that, brother. Always a blessing to be on this show.
And I want to say that all glory, right? All glory to God. Well, let's go back. Let's do that right. Praise Jesus for his sacrifice and his grace. All glory to God because he deserves it. Please pray for the children and anybody being victimized out there. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 a.m.